There's one thing that will forever change the way you sleep, and it's the softest 100% organic cotton bedding from Boll & Branch. You'll fall asleep faster, wrapped in the most luxurious comfort. You'll never sleep hot again with airy blankets, cloud-like duvets, and breathable sheets. You'll experience pure comfort on night one and feel your bedding get softer with every wash. Discover the difference with 15% off your first order at bollandbranch.com with code CUMULUS. Exclusions apply. See site for details.
Welcome to Heaving Bosoms, the podcast where best friends recap romance novels while loving a dark hero and connecting over our shared love of romance books.
Stack our shelves with the clinches out. Shout it from the rooftop, can you hear the sound? Yeah. Live your best life, love it out loud. Love it out loud.
Hey HBs, I'm so excited for our episodes this week. I always love when Kim and Alexis come on, whether they're together or separate. This week on the bonus feed, you can get excited for our January 2025 reading roundup, in which Sabrina and I send each other down rabbit holes, and neither of us are sorry about our actions. Today, we're answering a call from you. We've been recapping the Immortals After Dark series on Patreon and the Apple Podcast subscription, and we realized that Lothaire required its own event. Without further ado, here's part one of our recap of Lothaire by Kresley Cole, featuring Kimberly Lemming and Alexis the Sword. Oh shit. There are so many reasons to be grateful and over the moon at the moment. The first two are Kim and Alexis, obviously, because it's been way too long since we've had you on. And then, of course, we all get to squee over our shared love of Lothaire.
Yes! Finally!
Melody and I talked a little bit last night when we recorded the book before this, and I had not finished the book yet. And I already thought that he was an insane little gremlin of a man.
Yeah.
And then
Accurate.
I was only 50% of the way through. And then he only got more and more gremlin, okay?
It gets so insane. He's never been well a day in his life.
Never. But listen. In Lothaire's defense, he is old as hell. And if I was thousands upon thousands of years old, I would be out of my mind.
Oh, yeah. 100%. I would no longer, have a gourd to be out of, you know?
That's how I judged all of his actions, was just you know what? He's not well, and I get it. It.
Well, not to mention that, you come out the gate and you're 6 years old, and that is your villain origin story. Your villain origin story starts at 6, and now you're 3,000 plus.
Yeah.
Sir, you can have as much space as you need, frankly.
Yeah.
I'm just going to throw out there that if I had a nail shaving of the deluded self-confidence and arrogance that this man has in his body.
Yes.
I would be unstoppable.
I know.
This world would be mine.
I'd be such a menace.
Yes.
And then I would just do unhinged shit on the daily. 1 minute I'll just be beheading a king. The next I'm in the Mariana Trench punching a shark.
Yes.
Why not? I don't need to fucking breathe.
Exactly.
What does deep sea shark taste like is my question.
Yes.
Get to the
delicious,
bottom of it.
probably.
Get
All
to
right,
the bottom
listener,
of it.
here, before we're already jumping in, but hi, here's a special guest episode. We have Kim and Alexis here. We are reading Lothaire. We were doing a Patreon series where we were going through all of the books between the first two. And that is now, we've hit our pause point, right? Mel and I need
this is our pause finale. You know, we're taking a little bit of a pause and we're celebrating by having Kim and Alexis on to squeal about Lothaire.
It's also just endlessly satisfying and cackling because the entire time we've been doing this, everybody. Okay, so for y'all's context, we've been like, yeah, we're going to stop at book 10, which according to Heaving Bosoms is the one before this. And everybody was like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you not? How are you stopping the book before Lothaire? And then Melody and I are just
correct.
in the background.
Yeah, no, they're
correct.
You both know. We talked to you like at the beginning of the series. We were like, hey, how do y'all feel about coming on for Lothaire?
Immediately.
And we were like, to talk about our Lord and Savior?
Well,
Sorry.
because we were screaming about Lothaire in the Discord at that point, and we were like, we gotta do this. It might be December, though, by the time we are able to get to it.
But you got there. You got there.
Yeah.
I know. Boy, I was not prepared. Is this my favorite one? This might be
I mean,
yeah, for sure.
It should be.
Yeah.
Kim, you can't.
But wait,
no, you don't get an opinion on that. The only book in this series you've read is this one, isn't it?
Excuse you. I've read 1 through 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa!
Exactly.
When did you read 1 through 6?
It's because Alexis told me to read this one, and I was like, well, that's insane. I can't start in the middle of the series. I hate doing that shit. But she kept raving about it. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to give it a little taste. I get to chapter 2. He's like, you need to be punished. I'm like, yes, I do, actually.
Yeah.
I binged the whole book. I'm like, you know what? I got to figure out what else Kresley Cole is on.
Yes.
Went down the line.
Wow. Okay, never mind then. I stand corrected. You are allowed to have an opinion.
But am I the only person on this podcast right now who's read every single book?
Yeah.
I think so.
You are. You absolutely are. You know about that realm.
I do.
Hoppin' bounty hunter who always fucks everyone.
Yeah.
You know about
What?
all the things that I don't know about yet.
Yes.
You probably have met a
Listen.
nymph that someone likes before. Justice for nymphs. I'm sorry. Up
Justice
until this
for
point,
nymphs.
I am on the record on Patreon. I'm ready to get my pitchfork to go after Kresley Cole, okay? Justice for fucking nymphs.
Comment in this book where they were like, yeah, those slutty nymphs and
Those
those
fucking
alligator
nymphs.
shifters.
They're just slumming with the
nymphs.
alligator shifters. Oh my
Listen,
God, get off the nymphs.
Nymphs
Kresley
are living
Cole.
their best lives, okay? They're living their best lives, but Justice for Nymphs, you will eventually get to... It's many books from now. I want to say it's maybe the 3rd to the last.
Okay.
4th to the last or something like that. I forget which one. But the nymphs come back and they have a moment. They get into it. They do get
They don't get a heroine.
There's no main
Not
character yet that I know
Not
of.
yet.
Okay.
I'm just saying that as a podcast that is nymph coded, okay, I'm gonna need everybody to be kinder to nymphs.
Okay,
see,
so
this is the thing. I
Melody is
think
actually the
nymphs are-
nymph of the group.
Yeah.
Alexis is obviously the vampire.
Alexis is the vampire for sure. Yeah.
It's true. Nymphs are like... I think they're like cultivating that though. Like they're having the best time and they're like not even concerned about everybody calling
They
them.
don't. Like in the
they don't
YAD
care.
wiki, they're like, yeah, we don't ally with anybody and we just kind of go around.
We're
and have
just here to
sex.
fuck.
Yeah, we're just here
Yeah.
to fuck. And you know what?
I
I
was-
respect.
Yeah.
I was about to very aggressively state who and what I am in the lore and then realized I'm not doing that anymore because I did that on Governess and the Orc and I was in fact the video literally went out today on social media that Melody pulled where I'm like I'm Ka-et and I was like so aggressively I'm Ka-esh and then I did take the quiz on Finley Fenn's website and I am in fact according to the goddess Finley Fenn not Ka-esh. So I'm no
What are
longer
you? Are you a
publicly
Grisk?
stating I'm
No,
Grisk.
publicly
You're a
state
Grisk.
it. Just do it tentatively.
Yeah.
That's the one in your soul, though, Sabrina. You're a Kash in your soul.
Yeah, I understand.
Then I'm assigning you alligator shifter.
Sabrina's the alligator.
That's what you get for not
Honestly-
being decisive.
Honestly, of the only one of us who has lived in southern Louisiana, that of this group, I'm the
That
most
tracks.
accurate person, right? Like,
Okay, and actually, if I'm gonna be really honest about what I am, I'm nymph coded, but I am very obviously a Valkyrie
Yes.
whose immortal parent was a nymph.
Yes.
That's
I can
what's
see it.
going on over here.
100%. 100%. You're a halfling. It makes perfect sense. The energy coming from both sides. Like, this is, I agree.
Yeah.
What are you, Kim?
A Valkyrie.
You're a Valkyrie?
You're a Valkyrie for
babe.
sure. Yeah.
Yes.
Why was that even a
Honey.
question? I died in battle.
Yeah.
I rose again.
Yeah.
I spend my days punching sharks in the Mariana Trench. That's what I do.
You know what? All right, fair. I stand.
I just feel like I'd be one of the
Learned.
soothsayer ones. I would be insane. Probably seeing
Yes.
visions
Oh, yeah.
all the time and being extra cryptic about it just to be a bitch.
Yes. Agreed.
I mean, I've gotten the paragraphs of your dreams already. And
That's
like
true.
you're only going on, 30 years or whatever. I don't know what would happen if we hit 3K.
After a millennia.
Kim. I don't know. I don't
Okay,
know.
listener,
the
we're going to be here for
cataclysm.
18 years if we just
Yeah.
we could do
This
this could
is
be an
true.
entire episode of us going back and forth. So we're just going to hop right the fuck in. Listener, here is Lothaire by Kresley Cole. If you don't know what has led up to this, that sucks for you.
This
So,
is book 12
we open
of
up.
the Immortals After Dark series, and you can hear our very astute and very in-depth and very intellectual recaps of
yep,
the previous
intellectual.
books over on our Patreon if you're interested. Okay, but we immediately out the gate get an hour-long villain origin story way back in the gap, like 3,000 years ago. Lothaire is 6 years old. He's a baby vampire, okay? And his mom and dad are not fated mates.
No.
Like they're not. And they've gotten to the point where like they no longer even like each other. And what used to be super sexy is now like the worst thing that's ever happened because they're two different cultures of vampire. And the very first, like out the gate, his dad tells the mom that she needs to ask for forgiveness from his human fuck toy or be put out on the street. Yeah. And she's like, I'm too proud. My name is Ivana the Bold or something.
Wow.
She's the princess of the Dacia.
Yeah. She's a princess.
She's like,
Listen,
bitch, I'm royalty. I will
Yeah.
not apologize.
not
That's
a
right.
princess.
Hoe bitch.
I don't. Yeah.
Well, and then he
Yeah.
shows her because we zippy zap and they are
Hang on. First of all, we have to just drive home the fact that this is a sad villain and origin story because Lothaire, a little 6 years old, had just gotten a puppy.
yes.
He had
It
just
was
gotten that
yes.
puppy.
Sitting
He
in
was
the
snuggling
corner
that
of
puppy.
the palace room, just holding his little puppy as his parents are like,
Yes.
fuck you, no fuck you.
Yes.
I'm kicking you and that
Yes.
bitch son out. He's
And,
just like,
and you should know, when we say he's a baby vampire, we don't mean that he is immortal. So immortals in this universe, like, don't freeze into their immortality right away. So, like,
Yeah.
he's a baby vampire, but he's just like
And he can also
just a
die
baby.
anytime.
He's just
he can
a
die
baby.
anytime.
He could die anytime. So,
Yeah.
like, things are popping off.
Okay, so they get kicked out. Speaking of that poor puppy, trigger warning for murder of puppies. That puppy gets murdered
Yeah.
right in front of him for no reason.
Yeah.
They could have
none.
They
no
they
reason.
could have like kept it as like a heater,
Yeah.
as they were going. No, of course
No.
not.
kept it
So-
as a heater.
I mean, listen,
Obviously,
I'm
the
trying.
reason that puppy should have been spared.
I'm trying to be pragmatic.
Yeah,
okay, I'm
yeah,
trying
yeah,
to
you're
be
trying to
like,
get into
here are
his
the
head.
reasons
I
that
get
you
it.
might understand.
Yeah,
You
well,
awful vampire
no,
man.
yeah.
Why would his
No,
father
he
leave
wouldn't.
that puppy alive? That father was that sperm donor was like, you know what?
Yeah.
You can't
I'm
know
murdering the
joy.
puppy, and then he snaps
And
that
you're
puppy
weak.
neck.
You're a weak little dashy hybrid boy, and you're the worst, is what he said.
They're running. They've been like hiding in barns and like feeding off of animals if they can even find them. They're half starving, and it's
Oh, so
rough.
it's the tundra times. There's permafrost on the
Yeah,
ground.
this is Russia.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
just so you know. Yeah, and winter is no joke.
Yeah, winter is here.
And his mom is trying to find her homeland, except her homeland is shrouded by a mist that you can't find once you fuck off. And
Yep.
she fucked off hard for that guy. She thought she was making the right decision. We've all been there. Mm-hmm. And so she's trying to get back to this mist. She uses all of her energy trying to trace them into Dashi whatever, Dashenka. What's it called?
It's Dashi.
I said Dacia.
Dacia?
I have no idea.
I don't know. I think Robert Petkov said something like Dacia. Okay. Anyway.
Oh my God, he must have been so... I didn't listen to the audiobook for this. He must have been so fucking sexy in this book.
This book takes him to another level.
You need to get the audiobook.
The amount of accents he does in this book is absolutely bananas.
Yes.
I was about 33% in when I was like, I'm really regretting that I'm not listening to the audiobook for this one.
To the point that he does 2 different Southern dialects.
Yes.
Like English Southern dialects.
Yes.
Wow, what a god. And this is now being recorded in December of 2024. We don't know what happens after this, listener, okay? These things are forever, all right? Okay. You can't ever be too careful with a man, all right?
This is true.
Trust no one.
Yeah, trust no one. So they go and they end up in this field. There's a bunch of mortals who are like, is that a weak vampire we can SA and murder to death?
Yes.
Excellent. We would love to do that. And so she digs into the permafrost.
She buries him alive in the snow.
Her fingers are bleeding because she's digging a tiny, knot grave for her mortal vampire boy, and she puts him in there and she tells him that he can't come out no matter what he hears.
Yeah. She makes him
until
vow
it's
to the
all
lore.
Over.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Which
and
binds him to it. He can't break that vow regardless of what he wants.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he listens to his mom be, wow, for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah.
And then left out to die and burn in the sun.
Yeah.
Yes.
And she's like, my people will come for you and make a rational choice and go with them because that's the safest option. And when they get there, he's like, you let my mom die.
Which is a reasonable reaction for a 6-year-old.
We were all Lothaire.
Honestly, this was a more rational reaction than literally anything else he could have. Unless he
was
this
is his last rational thing.
It's true. and for good reason.
This is what proves to me that he's not actually a psychopath. You know what I mean? I was on the fence for a while.
He was not born, he was made.
Yeah.
Correct. Exactly.
True.
Exactly. So now we and so this is what sets up his entire life track from now on, because his mom has been insidiously instilling this vendetta, this sequence of vendettas that he has to get checked off a list. She makes him repeat it over and over again.
And she was screaming, "Avenge me!" during her death repeatedly.
Yeah, that's a really great point.
I'm just,
yeah.
I'm just gonna throw out there that of all of the things that could impress me about Lothaire, it is his commitment and ability to remember the to-do list that he has created for himself.
Wow.
Yeah, he's on.
Because it doesn't matter. If I was in that situation, I'm so sorry. It doesn't matter that that's what it is. I would that day decide this is my to-do list for revenge and then promptly forget all about it.
It would have been carved in my skin.
Yeah,
I'd never forget it.
Yeah, it would have to be. It would have to be carved in my skin, because otherwise I would... Okay, well.
His entire world view is this. Lothaire's entire conception of how the world works is this revenge. There is nothing else. It is Sabrina, if you were born and the instructions you got was you gotta get this revenge. That's all he's got.
Alexis, if you think I'm paying attention to whatever instructions I was born with now, that's impressive. I think that you're giving me way too much credit, frankly.
No, but truly, to Lothaire, there is no good, there is no bad. There is just, does it further my mission or does it not exist?
Right.
Yeah. And I will pick up and discard any person, any place, anything, literally anything, if it will forward my mission.
Yes.
So, speaking of, turns out he finds out he has a bride.
It's the evil goddess of death, Soroya, who has been cursed to hide in a human body, and he is horrified and disgusted. that it's a human body, but boy, he has added to his list. He's like, free my bride, kill that human soul, turn her immortal, and then I've got my bitch for life.
He is convinced that it's Soroya, right?
Because who else could fit him but a goddess?
Well, because it couldn't possibly be a human.
It can't be a human, right? Because he's a fool.
No, that weak hillbilly bitch. Like, no, not couldn't be her.
She only speaks one language, everyone, okay?
Yeah, exactly. Like a peasant.
Yeah.
God.
And she doesn't even speak that one well, according to him.
Yeah.
These are verbatim.
He literally
his
says
thoughts,
that.
listeners.
Yes. He literally says that.
He's not nice to her at all.
No.
I want to go on record as saying, right now, Soroya could get it, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Homegirl came in. I mean, it was a full-on entrance. There is a priest or a deacon or whatever of the church trying to do an exorcism, and he fails. And she is like eating this dude alive. She is both talking to him about how shit he is at his job while also simultaneously like destroying everything around him. It's an excellent entrance, and I was immediately
amazing.
like, I'm pregnant. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, how am I? Because I knew she wasn't going to be the bride because of the synopsis. And I was like, fuck, how am I going to like this human more than I like this crazy bitch?
I like her.
I know.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
Also, Soroya, it just has the oddest but funny sense of humor.
Yes.
Because the first time she makes her presence known, Ellie just wakes up to just a dude assembled with her stuffies. Like the animal stuffed in her room, his head is just poking out. She's like, who the fuck is that?
It's just a dead man.
It's
Yeah.
just a dead man. Don't
And
worry
her
about it.
cousins have to like bury the body, no questions asked.
questions
That's family.
And that's on their family.
That is Appalachian loyalty.
That's right.
10 out of 10
that is
family.
If Ellie pisses her off too much, she'll just drink a bunch of blood and laugh as she throws it up the next day. I'm like,
Oh my
that's a
God.
level of
Yeah.
pity I can get
Oh yeah,
behind.
yeah. She
love it.
so listener, she gets into this body of this. What is she? 19,
Yep.
20, 19,
18.
18, like Appalachian girl. And I'm gonna tell you right now, Ellie is a straight G. Like she is
Then I met
a
Ellie.
G. Okay,
I'm in love with Ellie.
I'm in
like,
love with her.
deeply.
Yes,
The way that she shows that to begin with, because we open up in this trailer, she's got a dripping meat cleaver because she's just killed 5, men of the Lord or whatever. And she's threatening the mom to kill the mom and the baby brother.
Yes.
And so Ellie manages to come forward and her mom is like, oh no, you came after my boy at this point. You have to be gone, basically. Like it's gone too far. We can't control you. And so she's like, and I couldn't stop, people from calling the law. Like there were a bunch of gunshots and shit. Like I couldn't stop it. So the sheriff is coming. And Ellie says to herself, I can't run because this absolute maniac is going to kill my family and that's not going to work for me. I can't go to jail because as a wild Appalachian girl, as she's been able to do whatever she wants her whole life. I can't go to a jail cell for the rest of my life. Plus, this is definitely death penalty shit, you know? And so she's like, I'm going to go out by suicide by cop.
Yep.
So she goes and gets her dad's empty shotgun. She tells her mom to go into the back room and don't come out no matter what she hears. It's one of those again.
It's a callback. It's a
It
callback
is.
because her and Lothaire are both survivors.
Yes.
And you see that in this moment. And that family means everything to
Yes.
them, right? And they are having the same however many thousands of years apart, that same energy.
Yes, absolutely. So she goes out expecting to get this hail of bullets, but instead there is a man, and he's a beefy one, but also like a model, you know?
Yeah.
And he's taking all
A real
these
Chris
bullets.
Hemsworth.
And he's like, you're not going to hurt my bride or something like that. And then he fucks off and she gets arrested. She's on death row now. She's on ice for 5 years.
Yeah.
Also, importantly, though, when he is like, hey, I'm here, and he stops everything from happening, he looks at her laying on the ground, and he says, "Your attempted blaze of glory, Elizabeth, and all because of a few murders." He gave her a look of disgust,
parsley murders.
as if to say, grow up. I was like, oh, hi, Lothaire.
And he and Sayora are just like talking shit about her. Like, I can't believe these humans would set her on death row for a few parsley murders.
Yeah.
It was like, what, 5?
Yeah. They're
They're so
insulted.
dramatic.
Like,
So literally, this takes us to the next thing because she's now, chapter 2, she's being executed right now.
yes.
And basically they've got like the needles in her arms and they're just waiting for like 2 more minutes to go by so they can officially like do it at midnight or
Yes.
whatever. Why do we do shit like that? Like, we just push the button.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like, and it's crazy, right? Because we're sitting here like, oh my God, it's so crazy. They put her on death row because she murdered a couple of people. But it's also like, yeah, but we're like about to murder her. Like,
Okay,
yeah.
but I can
Oh,
tell
yeah.
you exactly why there's a 2-minute wait. It's
Yeah,
so
tell
the
me.
hero can make a dramatic entrance,
You're
shut the
correct.
lights
Legit.
off, and start
Legit.
twisting off heads.
legit, which is what happened.
Yeah. So he traces in, and it literally says he cannot believe that she's being executed voluntarily for a trifling number of murders.
Oh,
okay.
he's so annoyed. He's like, what a little
Face
bitch,
to be
baby.
tied over this.
Well, and he's extra mad at her because she, in an effort to like get Soroya off the planet, she didn't appeal. She's been pleading guilty. She's been
He's
like,
like,
I
"Kill
don't
me.
care.
Please
kill
kill
me
me.
now."
I'm glad this is a
Yeah.
death penalty state. Like,
Yes.
Absolutely. Like, frankly, it's taking too long.
Yeah.
Is what
Well,
she's
and
Why
saying.
the 2-year wait?
and then, but
Exactly.
like, and we made jokes about in the last book about he put her on ice. Basically, was like, I'm gonna put you on ice. Like this chick.
The silent screaming at dogs.
Yeah, the silent screaming at dogs.
Sorry,
is
I can.
such an
I have them
experience.
in the other room, and I can still
Yeah.
hear them barking.
And
My
they're
bad.
like, "Mom, please."
No, it's because
Yeah.
Gumbo has his cone on, and Christmas thinks he's some kind of fucked up cryptid coming from the fog. And so every time he walks around, she's like, "Oh my God, the devil is here! Lothaire is here! Run!"
There is here.
It's the enemy of
enemy
all.
of
The
all.
enemy of all.
And I know that's what she's barking at because I can hear him like, "Gudunk, gudunk, gudunk." And then she's like, "Arr, arr, arr, arr." Anyway, but yeah, no. So I don't even remember what I was saying.
Puts her on ice.
Oh yeah, he basically his reasoning. He was like, you know what? Actually, it's good that she goes to prison. She can't hurt herself. She can she can't fuck. She can't she can't draw.
Yeah, he's real
Right.
determined to not let that happen.
He is like, she is not gonna fuck. That's
Yeah.
number
By
one.
the way, little jump ahead. He actually found Ellie when she was like 18. And
Yes.
because he kind of knew that was going to be his wife's situation, he's like, well, let me just
Uh-huh.
keep tabs on her. And he
Yeah.
also kept tabs by throwing every boyfriend she ever had off a cliff.
Yes, 100%.
I don't hate
He
it.
saw her kiss a boy,
Yeah.
and that boy promptly went off a bridge or something.
100%. He lost
Yeah.
his shit.
Yeah.
He was
He
like,
broke
Threw
Yeah.
the whole
both
car over a cliff.
yeah.
Well, the funniest part is he throws him off into a canyon, breaks both
Yep.
of his legs, and assumes he's dead. And then when Lothaire finds out later in the book that kid isn't dead, he's like,
Adds it to the
I have
list.
to go. I have to go find him. And she's like, that was a decade ago. What the fuck
No,
is
stop
wrong
it.
with you?
Stop it.
But he's still at the same level. It's like, sorry, I gotta run an errand.
Yeah.
Let me do it. Put a pin in this conversation.
Sorry.
I'll be
yeah,
right back.
I'll be right back.
Yeah. So he ends up killing everyone there and he
course.
traces her out.
Yep.
He ends up taking her to his secret New York City penthouse right off of Central Park. That was just important to me, Melody.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Later on, she's like, why do you have a fucking mattress on the floor? And he's like, well, vampires like to sleep as close to the floor as possible.
Yes.
And she's like, what the you're on a penthouse. He's like, I
Yeah.
also like the penthouse. It's like,
Like-
look there.
Get your life together, bro. Like, they build beds low to the floor, my friend. Like, get focused.
Yep.
Please.
Yep.
Also,
my God.
how many times have we said that the dude with the mattress on the floor is probably gonna fuck
Yes.
you right? You know?
Yes.
He's gonna rock your
That's
world.
true.
He's
That's
gonna rock
true.
your
It's just a
world.
fact
That's
of life.
true. And it is,
There are-
true.
There is
So
not a
probably-
single place he won't put his tongue.
Exactly.
And that is just facts.
Yep.
You know?
You
Yep.
want to know the funniest part about that? This just shows so much about me. You said that, and there's so many things that I could have thought. My first thought was toes.
Oh, no.
Like, there are so many worse places than that. Objectively, so many worse places. And my brain was like, it's toes. That's
Honestly,
what Melody's talking
there's
about.
no worse place for me.
I don't
can't
even want
think
to
of a
know
place.
that they exist. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I forgot. Melody, you're in
I
a
am the
crew.
odd
you're
one
the,
out
You're the odd
in
one
this-
out here.
yeah, in this
Oh,
room.
SAP.
I know. Listen.
But anyway, so they're in his room and he or in his house or whatever, and he's like,
Yeah.
he ends up like up behind her.
Well, yeah, because she's grabbing some ceremonial sword off of a desk that he has just like lying around, and she's trying to impale herself.
Yes.
Because she's like, if you're not going to let the state kill me, then
I'll just
I
do
have to
it.
kill me. And so she ends up stabbing him because he traces in between the sword and her.
Yes.
And she is not
Sexy.
sorry. Okay.
No.
She is so
No.
challenging to him, and Lothaire hates it, except like he's really also very taken by it.
Yes.
We find out that this dude plays 8D chess.
Yeah.
Yep.
100%.
And his whole
100%.
he's like, I'm the best at predicting what someone will do. And then he shows us that throughout the book.
Yeah.
It's fucking wild. And
Yeah,
my
it's
favorite
wild.
parts of this book are when he's like, and this is exactly what Elizabeth is going to do. And then it's like a hard cut to her doing something completely
Yeah,
different.
absolutely.
And
not. Yeah.
And he loves it. He's thrilled by it. Because remember, at this point, he is thousands upon thousands of years old. They're
Yeah.
very it ain't nothing new under the sun, right? And so he's enamored by it.
Yeah. At one point, she's like, does everybody do what you think they're going to do? And he's like, 96.4% of the time. And she's like, that's fucking boring.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
that's
And
got to be
she-
so boring.
She is. So one of the things I will say, I want to read this moment where she is like just stabbed him. And he like tackles her down and he says, quote, "Stay down," he ordered, towering over her. He was a fiend, an animal, still had blood sprayed on his face. How many had he murdered today? Go back to hell, asshole. And then she spat on his boots. Like,
Yes.
that is the energy that she is bringing. And it is
He's so into
It's
it.
because she's basically like, I'm doomed to die no matter what. So, like,
Yeah.
what do I have to lose?
Yes.
So at one point,
yes.
he ends up just, really casually grazing a fang down her neck.
He raked a fang down the golden skin of her neck,
yeah,
cutting
do it,
a
do it.
shallow length, blood gently pooling. Voice gone hoarse, he said, I'll like it more if you fight. You'll like it more if you don't.
And that, dear listener, is when I was down bad.
Yes. We're all fanning ourselves.
He says similar things throughout the book, and he says it to everybody. And like
Yeah.
he's said this before in multiple books, where he's like,
The sexual
feel
tension
good.
with everyone in Lothaire
Yes.
is off the charts.
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, fair,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But she is what I love in a sassy heroine, in that she's not sassy just for the sake of being sassy or because the
Right.
plot says be rude. She understands that if Lothaire gets bored of her,
Mm-hmm.
that he will kill her, right? And she understands that if she doesn't find a way to bob when he thinks she's gonna weave, that this is gonna be over really quick. And she lets him think she is stupid. She is like no problem with that, because she's like, oh no, I'm a survivor, right? And so she lets him think she knows nothing, but she very quickly picks up on like, oh, wait a minute. You think this woman inside me is your bride, and that's why you're keeping me alive? And like, she understands the game she has to play from jump. And that's
Yeah.
what makes it so at least for me, reading her give him hell was delightful.
Yes.
It was so wonderful. Yeah, because she starts out the whole thing being like, I'm going to annoy him till he kills me. Figures out that that's not going to work, so she pivots. And then she figures out, like, wait a second. I'm thinking, because Soraya comes forward, right?
Yep.
And Ellie is so strong that it's really rare that Soraya can get past her and come forward. So Soraya comes forward and Lothaire explains the plan to her. Oh my God. He's like having this horny moment. They're like grinding on each other after he's drank her blood. And then Soraya comes forward and promptly slaps him in the face for not letting her kill for 5 years.
Yeah.
How the fuck dare you?
Yeah.
Put me in that box.
And his heart on is immediately like,
Yeah.
wait!
Yeah. He doesn't know what to do
I don't know
with
what to
himself.
do in this situation.
Yeah. So his whole plan, like what we've seen in earlier books, is that he got what's called the Ring of Sums. And it's essentially like it's like a wish. I'll grant your wish thing.
It's like a ring. It's a wish ring that eventually becomes more and more monkey's paw, where like the first wish goes just fine. The second wish is like a little weird, you know? Third wish, so eventually it stops working because whatever wish you make, boy, that's going to come back and bite you real hard in the butt.
Right.
A real wishes come true, not free situation.
Hey.
Yeah, exactly.
Legit.
So his whole thing is he had the ring, he lost the ring, okay? But he drank just the right person's blood to get the memories for where the ring is. And so Soraya, just hang tight. I'm going to do some sleepinsies and it's going to be great. I'm going to dream this thing real quick and then we'll get you going. You know, it'll be great. And she's like, I hate being mortal. I hate this human body. Get me jewels, get me dresses. I'm going to cut my hair. Fuck you all over the place. This is terrible. Also, I'm not eating that plebeian nourishment. How dare you? I won't.
Exactly.
And she doesn't want to fuck.
She's my perfect woman.
No, here's the thing.
love her.
I loved Soraya. How do I say her name? I
Yeah,
forgot.
Soraya.
God,
Oh yeah, Soraya in this
I
scene.
said it wrong.
Because he asked, "Oh, what should we do now? Should we like make out or fuck or whatever?" She goes, "No,
Yeah.
take me shopping, you dickhead."
Exactly.
He takes her to get her hair cut. She gets whacked. She's getting new clothes. Takes her to a jewelry shop, and he just goes, "All right, so which one do you want?" She just goes, I will have
All of them.
all of the baubles
Yeah.
Hello?
and those
Taking
trinkets
all of
over
the
there."
baubles.
He's just like, "Okay, well, this is kind of a fortune." She's like, "I said I will have all the baubles."
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then he's like, "Okay, well, I'm not doing this for free. Can I get like some kisses or something?" And she's like, "Use the fucking human,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you disgusting piece of shit."
Yeah.
But she can't tell him that because she still wants him to like ring her forever, right?
Yes.
So she's trying to
Yes.
play like both sides. She's like, I couldn't possibly give myself to you in this body until this is totally my body completely, and that bitch is gone.
Yes.
And
Well,
so
specifically
un-
until I'm
yeah.
immortal, because you're gonna break me like
Yeah,
a
because he's
twig.
super strong.
Also
Because
that,
you're
yeah.
3 bazillion years old and super strong and full of blood and all of this, so you're gonna break me. So we can't do anything.
And not
But,
for
like, if-
nothing, she wasn't just an immortal, she was a goddess, a virgin
Yes.
goddess, because
Yes.
she thinks sex is beneath her, because her
Yes.
sister is all about sex and creation.
Yeah.
She's like,
Exactly.
no, we are about no dicks in this pussy.
Yeah.
We are about, what's that? Murder and blood.
Yeah.
But
And
also
she-
be into baubles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Keep those
Baubles,
coming.
murder, and blood. Again.
Blood,
This
murder,
is my perfect
baubles.
woman. Like I was like, I'm attracted to everyone in this book.
Everyone in this book.
is incredible.
You're like,
know,
so
it's
like, how do we do
tough.
like an MF
Yeah.
F in the same
Yeah.
body situation?
Yes, that's all I want.
And you know what? To Lothaire's credit, he proposes that later on. And Soroya's the one that shoots it down. So like
I
I think
was
they both shot
cackling
it down.
so hard at one point because it comes out eventually, obviously, that she's not interested in sex. Like, she's been using and manipulating him. But at that point, like, he made a vow that he would do anything within his power to get Elizabeth's soul out of that body and return and like turn Soroya immortal. And she's like, well, I'm not your bride, but like, you already made that vow. And he's like, I guess. She's like, what if, like, he's like, what if you're like my queen in the streets and she's my slut in the sheets, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. And it's
And Soroya's not having it.
only
She's
a
not
man.
having it.
Only a man.
Only a man would be like, is it a solution if you just give me everything I want? Yeah, like
why can't I just have it all?
Why can't
Don't
I just
women
have it
make
all?
sacrifices when they're in love? He
Yeah.
says this.
He
Listen.
says that out loud.
This.
He
I highlighted
does.
this whole thing where he's like, we're not equals.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
It's like,
And
wow.
honestly-
we're not equals. You're a shitty little hillbilly human.
Oh.
And like, I'm 3,000 years old and sexy. I speak 8 languages.
Yeah. So this starts like this middle section of the book in
Yes.
which he is living with Ellie, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
She has agreed to do what he wants as long as he doesn't kill her family in all of their orifices.
Right.
Then he's also looking for the ring. Part of that is sleeping, and he is a bit of a nutter butter.
Yes.
And so he's accidentally tracing in his sleep to
Yes.
like the horror places of yore.
Yes.
Like where he
Yes.
was buried for 16 years.
Well, and it's
And,
super
like-
Not
weird
16
because
years,
he sees-
600 years.
600.
years.
600. Sorry,
Yeah.
everybody.
And
yeah.
like the most bonkers thing is he's not used to seeing his own memories. He's like,
No.
why the fuck can't I see all of these other
No.
people's memories?
No.
Like, what the heck? And he can only see his own right now.
Yes.
Which is
Yes, because to be
horrifying.
clear, part of the reason why Lothaire is out of his mind, if you're like just hopping into this, is that when vampires drink someone's blood, they take on their memories, right? Which could be useful. But Lothaire has drank so many people over the centuries upon centuries that he's alive that he's got all these memories floating around in his head. So like it is also legitimately like he is like, I can never get peace. Like
Never.
And so like when he's sleeping, he's really vulnerable because like he can't even sort of control it. He's just kind of popping around into whatever memory or horror situation is in his head at the moment. And like it's a real vulnerability.
Most definitely. And there's been a couple of prophecies that have happened. So one of the prophecies was that Ellie is at least the vessel for his bride, right? The next one is that his bride will be the key to his throne. And he has like 2 thrones that he wants. It's part of the vendetta. It's cool. And then the other one, why can't I remember this? Oh, the other one is not quite a prophecy, but his like soothsayer tells him that she is the key to his mental health.
Yes.
Like his bride will keep him grounded.
Yes.
And so he's thinking it's Soroya, and he's like, make her come forward. Make her come. And she's like, that's not how this works. Bitch is not interested in you. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
She's not
she's
trying to come
snapping
forward.
hard.
Well,
I'm not
While she's living with him,
blocking
she's
her.
also started to figure out lore speak. So Lothaire
Yes.
is a
Yeah.
born vampire, which means he physically cannot lie without causing himself like a fuckload of pain. And so whatever, she's figured out Lothaire speak, which is when he doesn't want to lie, but he needs to like say something, he changes the subject, or he's like,
Yes.
I wager, or like, perhaps.
Do I look like a
Or-
man who would like that?
So like when she's like, what, do you really think that she's gonna put out in a way that I like what? Because she's decided she's gonna seduce him at this
Yes.
point. She's like, I'm gonna
Yes.
seduce him away from killing me. I'm gonna make him want me more than he wants Soraya.
Right.
And so she's like, what? You don't think I'm sexy? And he's like, I'm me. I'll wager
Yeah.
a thing.
Yeah.
I'll wager people do
If it
find
means
you
somebody
sexy
gets on
sometimes.
his dick, yeah.
Right? Like,
Somebody
hey.
fucking touch me.
Hey.
He's so desperate to get his
He's
dick
so
wet.
Okay, but in
desperate.
his defense, though, they freeze at like age 30, so he has
Yes.
not had anyone for like thousands of years. And then he's
Yeah.
finally blooded. His dick finally works, and no one will touch it.
No one's in there.
So sad.
Hang on though. It's not a 5-year boner.
All right. Yeah, that's true.
Like, dude, I will never get over that 5-year boner.
Oh, shit
Yeah.
was hilarious.
At least he was disinterested for all of those thousands of years.
Yeah.
And she has his whole number, right? Like in this time they're living together, she figures out, oh, he can't lie. So this is how, when he's lying or when he's telling the truth, he answers in this way. Like you said, his Lothaire speak. She figures out
That
Oh,
he's
he
never had a
thinks
friend.
that he's never
And he
had a
definitely
friend.
doesn't have
Yes.
any now.
Yes, and that he doesn't trust anybody, and like,
No.
and fundamentally, it is like this is enemies to lovers in a way that I love, right? Because it is true enemies to lovers, because he is prepared to kill her, right?
Yeah.
And he treats her abominably, right? And there is no like, oh, because she's just annoying. Like, he's like, no, she needs to die so my bride can come forth.
At one point, she says, well, I wouldn't do that, like, to an animal. And he goes, but are you much more than that?
Yes, exactly.
You know?
Right?
At one point, she looks him in the face and she's like, if Soraya is so all-fired important to you, then why'd you leave her in prison? And he's like, I was assured you'd be physically safe there. And she's like, and mentally? He's like, I couldn't care less. I'm only concerned with your body.
Yeah.
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 She's just literally just a vessel.
Just a vessel.
So at some point, they start doing a bunch of banter. And it's something that becomes very important to Lothaire later down the line. But he basically pulls the like, well, you weren't saying that when you were like, you know, moaning all over my fangs.
Right.
And she's like, look, I'm really hard up all over the place. So I might have flooded my basement over you, but it's just because I want a man, period.
Yeah.
Not necessarily you, because you're very pretty on the outside, but you're not on the inside.
Yeah.
And that kernel like sticks in his brain.
It drives him insane.
Oh, he hates
drives him crazy.
Yeah. So then there's like visiting the hag. Like we see a bunch of different people. And then she decides that she's going to seduce him. And he's like, oh, yeah? You think you can try to win me over from Soroya, you gnat? Okay, fine. Get in the yellow or the red teddy and be on your knees ready for me after I get out of the shower. And so she's like, okay.
By the way, very important. I just need everybody to know this specific little thing. At one point, she's shocked, right, to find out exactly how, not depraved, that's not the word I'm looking for, but like what a little nightmare gremlin this man is. And she says to him, have you, and this just explains very well, because this comes back a couple of times, how strong he is, because she says, have you ever done anything for another without expecting something in return? And he says, I'll cast my mind back further. Ah, yes. By the way, the fact that this is what he thinks of when he's like doing something nice for somebody. Yeah. During the Iron Age, I came upon a Iron Age listener. I came upon a dying mortal warrior on a battlefield. He wanted me to get a message to his wife and children, and I was in a whimsical mood. Give her the message yourself, I told him, and turned him into a vampire. When he reunited with her, she ran to him, tears of joy streaming down her face, their children trailing her. As their offspring rejoiced, he swung her up in his arms, squeezing her to his chest. Such a poignant moment, such an emotion, until she popped like a grape. And he's like, this is why vampires and humans don't mix. You're too frail. If I lost control and laid hands on your body.
Pop. It's so good.
But the whole time, because he is such a huge, you're right. Like you called it from jump. His ego is the size of a house. Frankly, the size of a planet, right?
Yeah.
So black hole.
A black
smaller
hole.
Egos eat. He eats smaller egos.
And adds them to his list.
Exactly. And she understands this. So like when he tells her that thing about the red teddy and like be on her knees, like first of all, she understands I can't do exactly what he says. Because if I do, like that's it, right? Also, the best part about this moment is that he is like desperate for her and pathetic. And that's part of what makes it work, because he's such a lunatic on the outside, but on the inside, he is such a simp for her. It's really just delightful.
Truly.
And
she won't admit it.
He won't admit it. He won't admit it. He won't
even admit it to himself.
No.
He's like, well, obviously I'm just interested in this body, but also like, man, I like that feisty, fiery little, but like also like, I can't wait for her to die so I'll get my goddess, but also like.
But he's starting to have doubts, and she is like feeding on it, and she is seducing him. And she is like, at one point she says, tell me that I'm better than Soroya, right? Because she knows that whenever he's with her, that with Soroya, that he's like, that nothing.
No, tell me that Soroya's better than me.
Tell me that Soroya's better than me. Yeah. And he is like, because he can't lie. And he's
Can't
like,
do it.
He's trying to change the subject.
He also
I
doesn't
plead the
want
fifth.
to change the subject because the subject is sex.
Yes.
So he's like, I don't want to distract her otherwise, but like I also cannot say that.
Right.
And one of the reasons that she ends up saying later on in the book, like, tell me that Soroya is better than me, and then I'll do this with you, because she wants him to get it out of the way at first.
Yes.
Because this is their first encounter where she dresses in something different but very sexy in her own way.
Yes.
And then she goes and he's like obviously expecting just like a straightforward beach. And she's like, actually, I'm so good at grinding.
Yeah.
Like I really cannot tell you the amount of experience I have just like dry humping to completion.
Yes.
And she says, I want to be in the driver's seat for this. And he's like, no, couldn't possibly.
Yeah.
And then she sort of turns it into this game. And he's like, oh, maybe I like her games. And like, she is also dry humping me.
And it's so good. It's so good. And he's jealous because he wants the thing that he thinks she's done with so many of these other dudes, right? That he's like, oh my God, there was someone who I didn't toss off the cliff who got this.
Oh my
God damn it. Like,
I need the name.
I need the names.
Also, hilariously, when she's riding on his gigantic cock that's still in his
Right.
pants, she's like, damn, vampire, you came loaded for bear.
Yes.
And he's like, what does that mean? And she explains that hunters in bear country have to go out armed to the teeth, even if they're hunting small game. So what I'm saying is you're hung and very, very hard. And he looks her dead in her beautiful face and he tells her, I'm superlative in every way.
Oh my God, Lothaire.
I fell so hard.
I've never loved a man more.
I know. So they're making out. She's dry humping. And then he says, bite you. And she's like, yeah, let's do that. And so he bites her and he is expecting her to just freak out, and either because of the pain or how gross it is or whatever. And instead, when they pull apart and she like licks the blood off of her lips, she just goes back in and makes out with him even more.
Yes.
And he's like, oh my gosh, this lusty, he's always calling her like a lusty little piece.
Yes.
Or like a hot little piece.
Yes.
Or whatever.
Yes.
So they end up doing all of that. They do this dirty lap dance. Oh my God, they talk dirty the whole time. And this is something that happens throughout the whole book. And when he comes, Lothaire cannot come without roaring.
Yes.
No, it's
And
impossible.
normally-
You're woman. You're
he's-
making me come.
He says, Elisabetta! Every time he comes. And it's hilarious.
And then he immediately has like weird feelings inside of him because she just made him come in his pants, and he's like, why?
Hold on, we're missing an important tidbit though.
Please.
Because in the beginning of this, as she's setting up this game, she's like, I bet you I could make you shout from the rafters. And what does he do, listener? He shouts from them goddamn rafters. And he's so mad yet pleased about the situation.
Yes.
But because he's like, he refuses to admit that it's her,
The
and
reason.
not just
Right.
the body.
Right.
He's like,
And he's feeling vulnerable.
Gross, you're disgusting.
Yes.
You can't compare to my actual love, Soroya.
Yes.
And then she's like, I'm just supposed to remind you of something. And he's like, oh, of what? Remind me? Because immediately he's like, oh yeah, we're about to get wet again.
Right.
And then she says, when you do recount, because he said that whatever they do together, he's going to laugh about with Soroya later because she's going to be so bad at it.
Yes.
And she's like, when you do recount my clumsy attempts to Soroya, be sure to mention the part where I rode you like a lazy horse and made you cream jeans faster than a 15-year-old schoolboy squeezing a tit for the first time. You might want to get these cleaned. And then like throws his pants into the shower.
Into the shower.
She is reading him to filth.
Yes.
The whole
It's
book.
incredible. It's incredible. And here's the thing.
But he likes it.
He loves
it.
He stared after
involuntarily
her.
smiles.
Cream jeans.
Yes.
Lazy horse. Unbidden. His lips curled into a grin. Do you like a little bit of like a humiliation from your love, Lothaire?
Right?
Oh, he's so here for it.
100% he's here for it. And but he's also it's because he already has those doubts, right? Like at this point in the story, though he's like in denial, he is constantly having these internal monologues and coaching himself like, no, you're doing the right thing. You're doing
so
goddamn,
don't doubt that Soraya wants you.
Yeah.
Like it might seem like Soraya has no feelings for you at all, but that can't be true because she is your bride.
Yes.
Like,
but also it can't be true because I'm Lothaire.
Yes.
Yeah. I would never be paired with a
what
lowly
woman
human.
Yes.
wouldn't love me.
Exactly.
Also.
So when, because the important thing is when she is usually very strong and she's usually not able to control it, but that's because she fights against Soraya all the time. But this time she decides not to fight because she is so insulted by the fact that they did something so intimate and so incredible, and he's still gonna like throw this back in her face and like act like, you know, it doesn't matter. Yeah. And so she basically just recedes and lets Soraya take over.
Importantly, Alexis, we have jumped a look because that's their sexual interaction. When
their
comes
second one.
Yes.
all over her. She's now covered in cum, and she feels Soraya coming, and she's like, "This is payback for making me drink blood, bitch."
Yeah.
Yes. And Soraya is so
incensed.
disgusted. She's so
So
mad.
disgusted.
You left your leavings on me.
Yes. She is furious, and
she cannot handle it.
She can't handle it, and in that moment, he is like he's so. It's like it's the comparison, right? The switch flips, and
the immediate comparison.
The immediate comparison, and I think he says, "Is this the part where he says like entertain me?"
Yes.
He tells her to entertain me.
Yeah, because right after the first interaction, she tries to go to bed, and instead he gets her up and he's like, "Dance monkey, I need you to entertain me." And so they end up bantering, and they have this really, really important conversation where she ends up saying, like, "What's your goal?" And he tells her the 7-point vendetta plan. And she's like, "Okay, no, but that's like how you get somewhere. That's the process. What's the goal?"
Right.
And he's like, "Well, doing all these things and like being king and killing the people." She's like, no, you're still describing the process. I'm asking for the ultimate destination, like a lot of people is like, career achievement or whatever. Like a lot of people is happiness.
Yeah.
And he says, he's like, "What do you know of happiness?" And she's like, I mean, my life has sucked, but I actually know a lot about happiness.
Yes.
And then she looks at him and she says, "You can teach yourself to be happy." And like, can Soraya do that? Like, do you see, is it children that will make you happy? Do you see Soraya like raising young with you, as Lothaire would say?
Yes.
And so she's asking all of these things, and she's like, "What are your common interests?" And he's like, "Well, killing and maiming and blood." And she's like, "Okay, anything else?" And he's like, "Actually, that's a great question. Oh, fuck." So then he ends up sleep tracing to the vampire, the horde place, Helvetica.
Yeah.
Oh, damn it. You were close to.
Was I?
I was hoping you'd get it super wrong. It's Helveta, but yeah.
No,
you were.
What's Helvetica? Oh, it's
Helvetica?
a font.
Oh, it's a font. It's
That's
a
a
font.
font.
It's a font. But you know what, though?
You were close.
You
I was
were so
expecting
close.
something
I was in the ballpark.
stupid.
Yeah. And I was like,
Yeah.
Impressive.
I'm on board. I'm going to let this train ride. Like, this is fine.
Helvetica.
I have
you.
no
God.
questions. I don't know any names.
Yeah.
I don't know where I am.
Yeah.
So then he like, this is one of those moments where like he immediately traces to an enemy. He has to like save himself. He traces back, and she is the only thing that comforts him. He's a puzzler, everybody. He tries doing his puzzles, but his brain can't make it work, even the simplest one. And so she ends up doing that. And when she does that, she ends up getting like information out of him.
Yes.
Yeah. So then he throws his tantrum, and she ends up comforting him. And he, because he's in this sort of like fugue state, he gives her a bunch of information he never would have given her otherwise.
Yes.
He tells her about the blood forest, about how he's like, "Bride, we will never live in the blood forest. I will never take you there." And she's like, "Oh, yeah, cool sauce." And he tells her about his childhood. He tells her about the blood vendetta. He tells her about the ring. Like, she asks if it's going to hurt when he evicts her soul from her body, and she doesn't know. And then she like goes to wipe his face or something, and he bites her finger, and then he just starts sucking on that finger.
Yes.
And then, wow, it's fool around time. Okay? So he's in it to win it already. But then he sort of comes back to himself, and he's like, wait a minute. Were you just interrogating me? And she's like, what? I have no idea. And he's like, oh, I'm throwing you down now, and we're going to do an angry makeout. So now that's what's happening.
Because the answer is not that we're going to not make out. Like,
no.
That's always the solution to our problems.
For
I'm
sure
going to be grumpy while we're doing it.
Yes.
Okay. So while he's doing this, he throws her, and her little nightgown comes up, and he's like, I'm sorry. Are you bare? Show me the goods. Spread them. I gotta see everything. And so she does. And then he's like, this is mine.
Yes.
And like, I only want to play. I just want to finger you. And then when they get going, he tells her to touch herself. And as she's like doing clit stuff, he's like, oh, you don't penetrate yourself? And she's like, no. He's like, he says, I'll teach you how good it feels to have something inside you. Oh my God.
So hot. Sorry, I'm dying.
No, you're great. So then when she's close, my note is he puts his huge penis on her nipples, because she makes it very clear that this is like the Titanic of penises or something.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
course
was
it
dead. Like,
Of course it is.
Yikes. Yeah.
It's the real enemy of old.
Yeah. Oh my God, Kim.
the enemy of old. I'm Lothaire. The enemy of old is
10
my
out of 10.
That's
10
right.
out of 10.
That's right.
Also, hilariously, I am in the right spot in my notes now because of a horny quote, unsurprisingly.
Yeah. Get it, girl. So now he titty fucks her for a minute.
He did fucks
Yes.
her. That was not on my bingo card for Lothaire.
Same.
And he is into it.
Neither was him saying that it's not like he cock-slapped a ghoul.
Yeah.
That's where I was. He's like, why are you so mad at me? Because, like, why aren't you melting for me?
Oh.
Is it because of a few shifter beheadings? Come on, Lizaveta. It's not as if I went around cock-slapping gnomes.
Gnomes, that's what it is. God, it's so funny.
But then in his head, he's like, she doesn't need to know about my youth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which means that he definitively went around cock-slapping
Gnomes.
If you were an all-powerful vampire with a cock that size, let's be honest, you'd slap somebody with it.
Like, he's just out
Come
here
on.
trying to learn.
learn.
So then, sorry everybody, I'm taking us back to the titty fucking and beyond, okay? Here I am. So then he starts moving down her body, and he's like, oh, do you want me to touch you here? Should we touch over here? And she's like, yeah. So then he starts like fucking her crease, her vulva crease, and like on her clit. And then he says, kiss me like you'll die if you don't come soon.
Yes.
And she says, I will die. And she ends up kissing him, like getting up and kissing him and like voluntarily licking one of his fangs so that she bleeds in his mouth. Ugh.
Yeah.
It's so horny.
And she comes, and then he comes on her stomach. This is the stomach jizz situation. And then when he's shouting her name to the rafters, she ends up coming again, and he's like, this hot little piece. Oh, I don't know what to do with myself.
Yeah.
And this is where we get the immediate comparison between her and Soroya, because they snuggle, and he says that, like, we're puzzle pieces fit together.
Yeah.
And then after that, he gets vulnerable, and he says, you question me like that again, and I'll end you. And also, you still don't compare to Soroya, and fucks off. And then she's sitting there being like, this hurts so bad. Then Soroya comes forward, and they have that whole talk, and she's like, I need servants. That's the first thing I want to say out loud. I don't understand why you're treating me like this. And she just sucks all the way around. She's got no banter. He's like, are you bringing anything to the table? And she's like, am former goddess. I will have you remember. And it's just not really doing anything for him.
Yeah.
And then she ends up recounting this wonderful time in which she tortured a bunch of kids and their parents.
Yeah.
And he's like, you can't go after kids because then other people will come after your
our
kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like, it's the wrong thing to say.
Yeah, absolutely. And then she's basically like, ew, I have no kids. Ew.
But you will have kids. My kids.
Yeah.
She's just like, all right.
I guess.
Fine.
And then she makes fun of him for being like besotted by this mortal. She's like, oh, do you have a crush on the little tiny mortal?
Yeah.
You sweet Lothaire.
Yeah.
Also, not for nothing, I couldn't believe he didn't figure it out right away, because like the moment Soroya, like quotation marks, bloods him,
Yeah.
and he's just like, I need to come now, and she's like, I guess you can use me. And so he just like dry humps her in the woods as she's just like stone still. Just
Yes.
like, ugh, get it over with. I'm like,
Yeah.
that doesn't tell you nothing.
Yeah.
Mister, all I care about is the fact that my penis is up for the first time in 3,000 years.
I know.
Room, bro. Like,
I
come
know.
on.
He's reading all the wrong signals.
He is, and he, at one point, Soroya asks him, why didn't you mistake me for Elizabeth? Right?
Yeah.
Like, she's sort of teasing him. It's sort of like
Yeah.
taunting him. And he ignores the question because, again, he can't lie. And he
Right.
just like, and this is the point where, like, this is a dude who has been playing, you know, whatever, 12-dimensional chess, however you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And he is starting to feel the weight of that, where he can't tell Soroya to fuck off, but he's got a
Right.
million doubts about her. He
Mm-hmm.
feels what he feels about Ellie, but he can't let himself feel that because he's like, oh my God, I can't even deal with those consequences. Like, he has got so many
And that's
plots.
beneath him.
And that's beneath him. And he's got so many
Mhm.
plots and plans and running in his head that he can't really do anything. And it's so unsatisfying for him.
Yeah.
And like Soroya knows that. And she is just, again, I'm delighted by the fact that like the two women in this book are just every opportunity
Yeah.
taking
him down a
suffer.
peg.
Taking
Yeah.
him down a peg.
Reading him
and
to
it
filth.
is-
Yeah.
Making
Reading
fun
him
of
to
him.
filth. Yes, it's incredible.
And one of the ways that happens in this scene is that she says, oh, well, you know, you've been sated recently. And he's like, I can go a dozen rounds if I'm inspired. So, like, why don't you come over here and show me what that body do? And she then goes in and sits down, and it's like she's stiff as a board on him. And he realizes that, like, it's the same body, but these puzzle pieces do not fit.
Yes.
Mhm.
Like, this
Yeah.
feels wrong.
Yes.
But then
It's-
she makes
it's
him,
good.
like, she goes and gets him to do a prophecy where, you know, it says that his bride is the key to the horde or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Well, hold on, because they're asking Hag about this. Just like, isn't it true that I'm his wife or whatever? And he is literally threatened to like disembowel Hag if she ever says that Ellie is his wife.
Yes.
And so Hag is just like, yeah, sure, it's Soroya, I guess. You'll fucking
Yeah.
kill me if I say otherwise. So yeah,
Yeah.
boss.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah.
That's the one you obviously want. Get the
Yes.
fuck out of my house.
Yeah. Like, he, in so many ways, has set himself up for failure in a way that is just, for someone who is objectively a really intelligent guy, right? Like, he has
Yeah.
to be, right?
He's got one blind spot, and
Yeah,
it's this.
and exactly.
Yeah.
And he can't work around it, right? And it's
Hey,
like,
Alexis,
it's great.
keeper of the lore, I do have a question for
Yeah.
you.
yeah.
Does Bellery Hag
Uh-huh.
read a book?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. But here's what I will say. I mean, as you know, Kresley Cole took a long break at the end
Yeah.
of that first batch of, I mean, like 20 books. Like, babe, I would need a
Yeah.
break too.
She deserves a
Um,
rest.
Yeah.
And so then when she came back, she picked up with Monroe because that was a thread that was left dangling. There is one with a witch and a demon. And the next one is is going to be about, I think, Cosima. So
Ooh.
that she'll come up. It's about Lothaire's family, the like vampires in the mist. So
Fuck
Damn
yes.
it.
Fun.
You,
So
I
I
didn't
think
need you to
that's-
tell me
I'm
that.
sorry. I think that's the next book. So it hasn't happened yet, but like also she's
but she's
taken
in that neighborhood still.
Yeah, like she's in that neighborhood still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just curious because I fell madly in love with Hag.
Oh, Hag's great.
Oh yeah, that's my
Hag's
best.
incredible.
Hag's
The
great.
things I would
Yeah.
do is just to get access to that food chest.
I was gonna
Hey.
say that food chest. Oh my
Hey.
god, I'd never.
Don't
cook
leave me alone with
again.
that thing.
Once again,
No.
Lothaire surrounds himself with survivors who he pretends or tells himself he is so put out by having to even tolerate for like the barest moment. There's another character that we meet eventually, Thaddeus, who like
His best friend.
Yes.
Thaddeus.
Thaddeus is
His
great.
golden retriever.
I
love that man.
Thaddeus so much. He's like a murder puppy golden
the
retriever.
sweetest.
He is the sweetest. He is like a 17-year-old kid. Like he is like
He's half vampire, half phantom.
Yes.
If you listened to the episodes we did on Patreon,
Oh.
we were in love with him last
Yes.
episode, where
He's
like
the
he
best.
is just a precious little sweet baby
yes,
angel.
he is.
And I would say he deserves to be protected at all costs, but I don't think he really needs to be
No.
protected. He can
No,
protect
he's
himself.
got it.
Honestly, he could protect himself.
And if he can't, his
100%.
bestie Lothaire will be right there.
Yeah.
Will he?
Does he have a book, Alexis?
He does not have a book, but he
Fuck.
comes back. His sister has a book, and he comes
What?
back in his sister's book.
Ooh.
Whoa.
That book is the sexiest book I have ever read in my life.
Oh my god.
What is it? Which one is it?
Incredible. It's like number 18 or
Good
17.
lord, so
I
many.
can't remember.
God,
It's,
sweet Jesus.
it's towards the end, and it is. You said Sweet Jesus. It's called Sweet Ruin. And
I've been seeing that
is
one.
smoking hot. Like, and it is a book. You thought you loved Ellie. The heroine in this book is like my holy grail.
Whoa.
She is a
Ooh, I'm not ready.
goddamn queen.
That is so exciting.
Okay. All right.
So Thaddeus comes back, but he hasn't turned 18 yet, which is why I think he doesn't have his book yet.
Fair.
Wait, I'm sorry. The next 12 books take the course of 1 year?
Yes.
They got a lot of stuff going on.
I mean, that's how the first 12 have been.
Yes.
I guess that's true.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
feel
Right?
like
It
that.
doesn't feel like
Exactly.
that. But it's like he's still 17 because by the time
Wow.
you get to her book, you jump back and forth in time with all these other people who were there with Lothaire in the like. You actually go to the place where they were all imprisoned, where he actually meets Thaddeus and like all of those things.
yeah.
So that's what happens over that next set of books.
Well, we get more time at Torture Island.
Yes.
That's exciting.
Well, yeah, because not the next book, but the book after that is McCreeve.
Yes,
It's William
McCreeve.
McCreeve, the
Yes.
cousin.
McGreeve
Right.
is a
don't remember who the
that
next
is
book
a
And he's got
masterpiece.
some-
I
he's
will
gotta
come
try to
back and
get
do that
somebody.
book.
I remember
That
that.
book is a fucking masterpiece. Like it is
Awesome.
the best
when-
book I've ever
do we
read.
get that one lady who was in the cell with Regan's book who gets stolen by the fallen angel boy?
Oh yes, she has a whole
Poison
book.
Fae?
Yes.
do we ever get
Okay.
one for Nyx?
Nyx's
No.
book
No.
has not come
Okay.
yet.
Kresley Cole has also stated that Nyx's book is going to be quote unquote the last
book.
As if
I'm
that's
so
not the
ready.
most fucking
But it
bullshit Lothaire speak answer you
But
could
it-
possibly
it-
give.
it-
How else
has-
could you do it?
Yes, it has.
No, it
to
has
be the
to be-
last
it has to be the last book.
It has to be the last book.
Nyx made
But-
me cry
But
this
is
book.
that? Oh my god!
I love her
right?
so
She
much.
did. She did. I'm sorry. I just wanted
love
you to know, like, yes, he comes back. His sister comes back. He does not know his sister exists, like,
Yeah.
and is alive in this book.
Sure.
But I wanted you
Ah!
to know, if you love him and you love phantoms and you're fascinated by that, it comes
am.
back in Sweet
Am.
Ruin. And so
Ooh, nice.
it's an excellent book. It is. Jesus
Ooh.
Christ, that book and the narrate. Whoo, baby.
I mean, Robert Petkoff
Honey.
is wow. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. We're back.
Okay.
So,
So now, so now he's like having this crisis of confidence, right? Because he's like, I can't possibly be fated to a fucking human. That's
No.
beneath me. It's terrible. But like my feelings are telling me otherwise. And so he tries to like ignore her for a week while he goes in search of the ring elsewhere. So he's basically dropping her off at daycare every day with Hag while he gallivants. But by the end of the week, he is hard up and he is bananas.
Yes.
He's had zero proximity to his bride. And he keeps on thinking of it. He keeps on thinking of her as the little peasant. Like,
he's real big on pet names.
Oh, God. Really? He tries at first to just like jerk it to fantasies and memories of her. And then he's like, hold on a minute. I can just get her hand on this D. So that's what I'm going to do. But she's Elizabeth, and so she ends up fighting him on all of this in the best ways. Like, first of all, she's petty suntanning, which is hilarious because Soraya will hate her body being tan.
Yes.
And then he's like, come here, take off your top, do all the business. And she's like, no, go take a long trace off a short bridge. Like, get out of here.
It's a great line.
Oh my God. And so now they're like full on fighting. He traces her back to the apartment. She's still like, no, fuck you. I'm not interested in you because you're a monster and you're not nice to me. And so then he ends up like tracing her to this massacre that he did earlier in the book to like show her just how dangerous he is. He's reminding her like, you do what I want or this is what happens to your family, essentially. And then it turns into like her.
Well, that Soraya shows up then. She pops her happy ass out of Ellie's head and she's like, oh my God, I can't believe that you're so selfish not to leave some of these murders for me.
She's real pissed
And like,
about it.
Soraya,
she not
you
wrong.
are a more, even if he did leave, you think you can go after a fucking shifter?
Right?
No?
In this
Her
box.
confidence is so unearned and astronomical.
And I eat it up.
Yeah. But during this whole thing, at the end of it, she really ends up like pissing him off because she says that she feels sorry for him.
Yes.
And he's like, you have the audacity to feel sorry for me, the one and only Lothaire, enemy of old? And she's like, yeah, because I'm only like 24 years old or something like that. I'm a poor peasant. I've spent 20% of my life on death row, and yet I have still known more happiness than you have in your unending life.
Yes.
And he's like, I hate everything when people tell me the truth to my face.
He is
exactly
undone.
Don't you know I have a ledger full of debts? You can't speak to me like this.
That's the one. That's exactly it.
So Soraya pops up and he's so mad. He's like, no, you stay here and talk to me. Don't you? How? No. And then
She's like,
Soraya's
I made a
there.
promise. Bye.
So baby, it's so
And
hard.
he's like, all right, it's time to actually have a sit down talk with Soraya. Soraya, what do you see our future as being? And Soraya's like, well, taking over those kingdoms, being king and queen, and then taking over more kingdoms. And he's like, yeah, but like, what about happiness?
Well, more than that, though, because he's asking like what her goals are. And then the conversation before comes back of, oh, those aren't goals. That's just steps.
Yes.
And she's like, what is even the difference?
Yeah. He says to himself, I cannot believe I'm saying this, but that is a process. That is not a goal.
Exactly.
And he says at that point, like, neither of us know what happiness, like, neither of us know how to do this. How are we supposed to do that together? And she's like, happiness is having people subjugated at your feet, and it's blood, and it's conquering, and all the whatever.
You're a fool.
Yeah.
Like, and she at one point says, if that is your wish, vampire, I will endeavor to be biddable to you. That's what you want, isn't it? And he immediately is like,
disgusted.
Son of a bitch. I don't.
Yep.
I want a woman who is going to like take my orders, but also not take them
Fight
at all.
me
And
every
fight
step
me
of the way.
every step of the way.
That
And
is
he's
exactly what he wants.
Miserable. She
He's
is
so
again
mad.
offering it on a silver platter because she knows, right? Soraya knows. She's like, I'm not your fucking bride. Like, you dumbass. Like, she is just toying with him, and it's delicious.
And he's starting, at this point, he's like, oh, fuck. It's not that Soraya was in her body when I saw her and got blooded, it's that she had reached her majority.
Yes.
She was finally old enough for my body to want to fuck.
Yes.
And I was reading all of the signs wrong, and I'm so mad about it. But then she's like, you're acting like that little concubine is your bride.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, and she is, but it doesn't matter because of that vow Sabrina told us about earlier.
Hilariously, he's still in his head. He's like, but like, it still can't actually be my bride. You know what I mean? Like, she still can't act. Like, every single person is telling me into my ethereally beautiful face.
My well-endowed face.
My lazy horse hung body.
That's right.
That Elizabeth is my bride. But like, is she?
Yeah.
So when Elizabeth...
This is when.
Yes.
Take it, Sabrina.
Elizabeth is back. And they get into a fight, basically. I don't remember the logistics of the fight.
She wakes up and he's fondling her in bed. That's what it is.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah, because he was like, Soroya, prepare
get out
her
of here
for me.
Yeah, get out of here.
And so she wakes up fondled in bed, and oh man, he's touching on her, and Elizabeth is like, don't touch me, I don't want you.
Yeah.
And so then he bends down and he kisses her, and then he tries to get into her mouth, and she like clamps her mouth closed, and he jerks back. What is this? Be like you were with me the other times when you melted for me.
Yeah.
And she's like, that was before I fully understood what a nasty piece of work you are. Because of a few shifter beheadings. Come on. It's not as if I went around cock slapping gnomes. That's when that happened. It's hilarious. And then this is a dubious consent, and I loved it.
We loved it. I loved it. I didn't even notice the dubiousness of it all. Oops.
Yeah, I was in it.
She is literally telling him no, and he's like, but yes, here's your clit. This feels good, right? You do actually want this, right?
And this is when she says, tell me that Soroya is better than me.
Yes.
And when he can't, she's like, oh shit, I'm still in the game. I can still seduce him away from Soroya. And so she's like, you know what? It's time for baby's first BJ.
Yeah.
That's what it's time for.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing now.
He asks her why the sudden shift in her behavior, and she says, well, I thought I was jealous. She admits that she was jealous, and he loves it.
Oh, he eats it up with a
spoon. Because as much as he wants to possess her, he wants to be possessed by his bride, right?
Absolutely.
And so the fact that Soroya actually doesn't give a shit what he does is like, it's ruining the experience for him. No, he wants his bride to be jealous. He wants his bride to be like, you look at another woman, I'll carve your eyes out.
That's right.
And so when she says that, he is like, oh my God, finally. Like,
I do remember where I thought of the dubious part, though, Sabrina. I am recalling it now. And it is it is after he, comes into oblivion with the beach. And then he's like, you know what? I'm going to fuck your virginity out of you with my fingers. And it doesn't matter what you say about like how it hurts or like anything like that. We got to get rid of this impediment. So sorry. Yeah. So that's not great. And then in the middle, Soroya tries to come back again. And she's like, but by this point, it's feeling good now. And so she's like, no, I don't want this to happen. He's like, you stay with me. He says, this pleasure is for you alone. And she manages to stay.
And then in his head afterwards, he's like cuddling her in bed, and he's like, I know exactly what's going to happen. And we get a whole paragraph in italics of what he's like. She's going to like snuggle up on me and be so happy. And then she bursts into tears, and he's like,
what the fuck?
Oh no, I don't understand women.
Yeah.
Why are you crying?
She's like, this is my consolation prize. You're going to kill me soon. He's like, oh, right, I have to kill her soon. Shit.
Yep, it comes back into his
stop
memory.
crying,
at that moment, he's like, "Oh shit, you're right. I am gonna."
By the way, very, very importantly, when he is fingering her and going down on her, he does come all over the carpet.
Yeah,
he does.
100%.
Importantly, because
Untouched.
she says, Lothaire, stop teasing me. And he's like, tease? It's the least I can do since you're about to make me come on my carpet. And then he does. That was just very important to me.
As he should.
Well, and
But
now
also,
she's crying. What? No, go ahead.
This realization later in the book, I just remembered that he's pissed at her for changing the sheets on the bed and cleaning. Does that mean that this cum was just on the carpet for the whole
Oh yeah.
Remember, he just changes his
carpet.
room anytime he gets dirty.
Yeah.
You will not
I know.
get it.
I just put that together.
My question is, how many rooms are in this penthouse?
Right?
There's just a Jackson Pollock on the floor there now.
Exactly.
Is that my hard? That might be my hard limit. Just leaving puddles of cum all over the place.
Well, he won't
Even
hire
if
Soror
you're
any goddamn
Lothaire.
servant. So
Well, no, because he
Okay.
can't trust them. But oh no, I don't like that.
Yeah. Yeah, so she's sobbing now, and she's like, you're still getting rid of me. And yeah, it's my consolation prize.
Yeah.
And then she says, like, have you ever regretted discarding someone? And he says, no, never. And she says, you are going to regret it with me.
Yes.
You are
Yes.
absolutely going to regret it.
Yes.
And then that night, he is having a really, really bad dream, and she tries to wake him up. She knows that she's not supposed to touch him when he's having a bad dream because he does this, like, sleep tracing to enemies.
He's also, a millennia old strong vampire that could a backhand would literally send
pop her
you
like a grape.
into pop.
And actually, he kind of does. He does bat her about 10 feet onto the floor, and then she comes back for more to be like, but actually, I can wake you up.
Well, because specifically, she hears him crying and calling for her,
Yes.
and she's like, I wouldn't even hurt an animal.
Yeah.
This way.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I can't leave him like
Yeah,
this.
and it's
Yeah.
like the inverse
She's better than me.
of what he said, right? I mean, first of all,
I would have been across. You bought me across
Yeah.
the room.
Yeah.
That's all you want.
Yeah.
I will throw shit at you from the other side of the room. Like, wake up, asshole.
and I'll die mad about it. Like,
I'm not helping you out of this. You just
Yeah.
punted me across a room.
I
Yes.
love it.
yes.
I love
But
it.
it's an inverse, right? That like he is like, you're no better than an animal, so you don't even deserve my care, my effort, my energy.
Yeah.
And she's like, I wouldn't even treat an animal like this, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't leave a dog like this. Like
Nope.
I can't leave him.
Yeah. So she ends up getting traced to the Horde president right now. And he and a bunch of like demons and then lizard men with like real sharp teeth are there. And they've got Lothaire by the scruff of his neck. She's also there being like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
She's
She gets
also
licked
freezing
by
to
one of
death.
those lizards.
Yep.
Oh yeah. It's a tundra town
Yes.
here.
Yes.
And she gets licked
and the
by one of
trees are
those
bleeding.
lizards.
yes.
Also, the trees are bleeding. Y'all, this is a horror.
This is also
escape.
where he was tortured for 600 years and
Yep.
buried
Yeah.
alive by his father.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 It's a lot of fun things happening in this
Well,
place.
listen,
Yeah.
if there's anything that's going to send you into a spate of catatonia, I'm going to allow Lizard Man licking you.
Yes. And
You know?
she, like, her eyes, and he describes it because he watches it, her eyes go blank. Like, she
Yeah.
just shuts down.
Yeah. So now he's like trying to defend them or whatever. And then a bunch of Dashi come out of the literal mist and start fighting on his behalf, like all of these Horde vampires. So they manage to all fight at the same time. And he hears them saying, we're going to fight for our queen.
Yes.
And
'Cause
he has
it's
no
not even
idea the
about
fuck that
him.
means. It's not even about him.
Yeah, if it had just been him there, they would have been like, well,
Eh.
you know.
Yeah. And so they're like, we're going to take her back to the castle. And he's like, oh, my God, if they take her, I'm never going to find her in the mist. You know, it's that
Yeah.
whole thing. So he ends up killing,
Or he
mutilating
yoinks her.
all the people. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, no, but then he gets bloodlusty with that big bad enemy. And he's
Yes.
like, I'm going to eat your liver and stuff.
Yes.
And he's like throwing gore all over the
in
place.
front of the
Yes.
Dashi, mind
Yes.
you. That comes back
Yeah.
later.
He is in the position that he has put hundreds, if not thousands, of other creatures.
And he's
over the
realizing
years,
that in
and
real
he's
time.
Realizing that in real time because they understand that she means something to him, that she is his
Yeah.
bride, right? They see it immediately. They're like, you fucking dummy. All right, yeah. And they're talking about all the terrible things they're going to do. And he is losing his absolute shit. And he
Yeah.
is like aware of the fact that he is like, I have done this to others and now it is happening to me and it is
Mhm.
agony.
Importantly, listener, his takeaway from this is not, I should be a better person.
Oh, no,
It's,
no.
I
No.
should protect her
Yes.
Yep.
better.
100%.
And so he does get everybody mutilated. Yes, smaller cage.
Well, but the only way that he comes back to himself is he hears her heartbeat. He's gonna just play in that gore until, forever.
Because he beats this guy to a pulp. It's just guts, and
he's weaving a crown out of intestines right now.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Before he has threatened to garrote people with their own viscera, and that's the place he's in right now. Except you're right, it's more like crafts. It's more like crowns and necklaces.
He's splashing in the blood puddles.
Yeah, this is his sandbox.
Yeah, but he hears her heartbeat. And his bride brings him back down. And so he gets to her and he traces her out. But she is completely catatonic.
Yeah.
So he takes her to the hag. Yeah.
And then, so earlier in the book, he was trying to get the hag to make him a potion to help clear his brain parts because he refused to accept that Elizabeth is the one that cleared his brain parts. And he refused to use any of the names out of his book to get something that he needed for that potion. But for her, he goes and grabs Thaddeus because he remembers Thaddeus was catatonic in the lore prison.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so he goes and grabs him, and Thaddeus, the sweetest, babiest angel, is there and is keeping an eye on her. And Lothaire goes, and he's going to go confront a god to call in one of his debts to get this thing he needs for this potion. Also, importantly, though, earlier in the book, he does make a comment, I don't know why all of these people think I want their firstborn child. Why?
It's so funny.
In what world? I'm not Rumpelstiltskin.
I was Lothaire because what the hell am I going to do with all your kids?
What do I want with all these
Am I
kids?
raising a daycare? What is that?
Especially, they're all immortal? No. No.
That is my nightmare scenario.
In this scene, he looks at this sea god and he's like, I don't want your fucking guppy.
Yeah.
What? Get out of here.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, but Thaddeus does successfully bring her back. And then when Lothaire... Well, hang on.
When he's
More
gone.
importantly, while he's
The cat's
gone,
away
they're
and the
all
mice
having
will
a
play.
great time. The three of them are drinking Coronas out of that chest that Kim and I are not allowed near. And they're drinking Jose Cuervo tequila out of that chest. They are in swimsuits having a good old time. And she thinks to herself, I wonder if it's just Lothaire, if it's just a man. And she goes up to Hottie McHottie, 17-year-old Thaddeus.
Poor Thaddeus.
And
Thad didn't ask for this, okay? He's just naturally beefy.
He actually rejected this.
Yeah, he did.
She walks up and gets him to turn around, and then she's like, I just want to see something. And then she gives him a smackaroo on the face, and oh my God.
And he's not
awkward.
okay.
And then Bellary walks out of the house, and she's like, oh my fucking God, go wash
your
your
face. Did you just
face.
Do you want him to get
God,
murdered?
you just killed him.
Everyone is in panic because they're like, she's like, Lothaire is going to come back and lose. But in her defense, in Elizabeth's defense, Lothaire has had this entire internal monologue about how now he understands that this is his bride. He needs to protect her. She is in
Why would he share that? Alexis?
He does not exactly
speak about his feelings.
Why?
It's disgusting.
He doesn't tell her a goddamn thing.
Why would he? She's just supposed to listen. She's a lady.
And so she actually has no sense that he's changed. She's like,
no,
I'm still in the same position I was in before. So again, if I'm gonna go out, might as well.
Yeah, might as well make
Alexis,
sure that
it's like in her defense, she doesn't need to be defended.
No, she doesn't.
This is a perfectly valid thing of her to
honestly,
do. I
any
feel
choice
bad.
she makes is
I feel
valid.
bad that Thad is the one caught in the crossfire, but
that's the part for me that's and you're right, because she, in this moment, she's not only being like, I can do what I want because he has a whole other girlfriend that he tells me about all the time.
Yeah.
But also, she wants to make sure, is this thing with Lothaire special?
Right.
Or is she just a horn dog right now?
Right.
And that's important to, the next decisions that she makes. She turns out it is special with Lothaire. She finds that out with Thaddeus. She feels nothing in her girl parts.
Yeah.
Hilariously, I did just find a quote, though, of when he went and stole Thaddeus, because he did not ask Thaddeus.
No.
He did just show up at Valhalla and grab him, and all of the Valkyries are like, you can't take him! And he's like, go fuck yourselves.
and
just like
he just like yells at Thaddeus. He's like, come with me and fix Elizabetta.
Yeah.
Thaddeus is like, okay. I don't know who that is.
Well, there's my friend.
But that is so excited that Lothaire has a
best friend.
girlfriend. And he's like telling her all these stories about how hilarious Lothaire is and like what a good pal he is.
And everyone's
all
staring
this
at him
stuff.
like, Lothaire? Hilarious?
Yeah. And Lothaire has half traced in, seeing his wingman like hype him up real hard.
Yes.
And he's like, hold on, I think this is my bride and like 2 friends.
Yeah.
And like, I don't really know what to do with
He
that.
feels like it's a
information.
mutiny. Like, how dare they
Yeah.
have margaritas without me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is yes. That's exactly.
Yeah.
He was so incensed until he heard Thad singing his praises. He's like, all right. Yeah,
Okay.
let me listen
Oh,
a
I
little
can
bit.
listen to that
Okay.
part.
Okay.
That's
Maybe
good.
it's not a
Okay,
betrayal.
this is
Maybe
good.
it's
This
just-
is good.
So when
right.
he announces himself, they immediately are acting like a couple. He immediately goes to grab her waist, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, what are you doing, you big strong man? Like, take me
gives
back to
him
your
a
house."
Nickname. She starts calling him
Leo.
Leo because that's the acronym for Lothaire, the enemy of old.
Yes.
Mhm.
It's wonderful.
And she tells him, I've decided I'm going to keep you.
Mhm.
And he's like, have you? And she says, even if you've been the biggest dick imaginable. And he says, insolent shit.
Ugh.
Your bride, aren't I? The idea of a mortal bride is ridiculous. I'm calling Lothaire speak.
That's Lothaire
You
speak.
didn't answer me. And he's like,
Uh-huh.
Lothaire speak? What?
What are you talking about? What?
Are you reading me to filth again?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So he ends up taking her back to the apartment, but he notices now that like everybody was acting a little shifty and he can't figure out why. So he keeps on asking her about it, and she's like, nothing happened. Okay, fine, I tried to kiss Thad, okay? And he's like, well, you have killed him. And she's like, no, he didn't kiss me back. Like, it was an experiment that I did,
Yes.
and he didn't kiss me back. And so he ends up getting really mad and tracing her back to her family mountain
Yes.
so that he can kill all of her family in front of her.
Yes.
Specifically because
Yes.
she won't tell him why.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And
Yes.
and
So
the
unwell.
whole time she's egging it. This is the best part. She is
Yeah.
egging him on. She's like, please don't Lothaire. Please, I'm so scared. Like she
Oh,
is
no.
like, oh no, don't do it. And then they get there and it is
Gone.
empty.
They did a full Appalachian disappearing act.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Vanished into the night.
Yes.
And so he's like,
Yes.
the fuck? And she's like, oh, does Lothaire feel so bad because he was bested by a mere mortal, a poor peasant?
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. She's like, my superpower is that everybody fucking underestimates
Yep.
me.
Yep.
And you just got again.
Exactly.
Oh, God, it's so... And
He's
he
like,
loves
how
it.
did,
Yes.
well, and the best part is he's like, how did you even like get a message to them? And she's like, I didn't. I told them that when I died in prison, no matter what happened,
Yeah.
to go underground
Yeah.
5
She
years ago
put
when I
this-
went to prison.
Exactly. She
Yeah.
put this plan in place before this had even started, and he is like blown away. She tells him he's holding a shit hand of cards.
Somebody else is playing 12-dimensional chess.
Yes, and he has this moment where he says, "Oh, I understand now that she's going to be a queen." Like he in that moment is like, "Oh, I see her clearly."
Yeah.
He also realizes he has no leverage anymore. So he just like,
Nope.
he does like,
Oh, God.
oh God, just tell me why you kissed
Well,
the
and,
boy.
and he's like, why were you doing all the things I wanted you to do then? And she's like, I needed you to think that you had me. Like,
Yeah.
come on.
And she wasn't
Yeah.
exactly
Like,
sure
hello.
either because he wouldn't let her contact her
Sure.
family.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so he
yeah.
begs her to tell him.
So
Yeah.
she explains why, and it was, I wanted to see if I had these feelings about other people, and he's like, and then he's holding his breath, and he's like, do you?
Is
and
it
she's
special?
like,
Yes.
no, I didn't feel any desire for him. I only feel it for you. And he goes, good. I didn't want to have to
I mean-
behead that or to string you up at the demon crossroads. And she says, oh, Lothaire, you did it. This is huge. This is what I would call a breakthrough moment.
I love her. even now, reading him for filth. Oh,
yes,
it's so good.
She's giving him such shit. And it's funny because this is like the genius of this book to me, because in a different book, this would be like the ending, right? Like Lothaire recognizes...
This is their HEA.
This is their HEA. They ride off into the sunset. It's fine. But what actually happens is...
No, this is like 54%.
This is, like this
half
book
of
is...
the book is still
so much happens.
They decide to be together forever at 54% into the book. And all of my sphincters clench, honestly.
Like, it's not the end.
Well, also, I knew that he was going to have a grovel. It's Lothaire. He's not going to get off easy in this book, right?
For sure.
100%. But at this point, remember, he has made the vow to the Lord for Soroya, right? So in order to keep his bride alive, he's got to find some alternate way to resolve that, right?
Yes.
He's got so many different plots and plans running that are now all beginning to collide with each other. And he has something at stake.
That's where we're going to leave you for today. Tomorrow, we'll be back with part 2. And if you haven't checked it out yet, Kim's newest book is out now, and it's ready for your eyeballs. It's called I Got Abducted by Aliens, and Now I'm Trapped in a Rom-Com, and it's a ride that only Kimberly Lemming could take you on. Make sure to get it. Heaving Bosoms is produced by us, Melody Carlisle and Sabrina Bradley. Editing is done by me, Melody Carlisle. Our theme music is by the incredible singer-songwriter Brittany Fonts, and our art is by the ultra-talented author Kate Pryor. If you like our show, remember to follow us on your favorite podcast app, rate us 5 stars, and leave a review. That one small action is a huge way to help the show. If you want to get in touch with us for advertising inquiries or anything else, you can email us at heavingbosomspodcast@gmail.com. If you want more of us, visit patreon.com/heavingbosomspodcast. You can also find us on Instagram at Heaving Bosoms, on TikTok at Heaving_Bosoms, and in our Facebook group, the Heaving Bosoms Geriatric Friendship Cult. See you tomorrow.